when you realize that it's not about you and you submit yourself to something that's of a greater purpose than just what your personal stats are, the game becomes more fun.
Got my back on the ropes. I don't make this bread, then I'm probably toast. I can't give up my soul. It is not worth any financial goal.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Metz. I'm a senior right-handed pitcher on the Virginia Tech men's baseball team. I'm majoring in mechanical engineering. I'm from Fishers, Indiana. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
If you could start us off with just your story and like how it kind of went down, when you got hurt, where you got hurt, and your recovery.
Yeah. So, I never really thought injuries were really part of my story, but senior year of high school, it all kind of started. I ended up with some pain on my left side of my back in high school, and I ended up throwing through it, and just didn't really think much of it. It was just kind of there, and it kind of went away. And then I got to school here for freshman academy, or summer academy as my freshman year, and my right side started to hurt. And so I got it checked out by the doctors, and when we did the MRI, they basically showed that I had a stress fracture in my L5 vertebrae, and I had played all my senior year in high school with it on the left side, and then when I got here, the right side broke. So I ended up spending my first 2 or 3 months of college in a back brace, and I think that was really difficult for me. But then injuries kind of continued to pile on. Sophomore year, I had some minor injuries, and then my junior year, actually last year, I felt like a pull in my elbow and ended up damaging my UCL. But like I said, injuries were never really part of my story. But I feel like throughout college, I've always been dealing with something.
So I feel like there's a lot of difficult things to embrace about injuries, especially during the recovery process. And like, what do you feel like was something you were kind of reluctant, to accept, that you kind of had to learn to embrace throughout that whole process?
Yeah, I think initially, I think it was kind of a theme that played out over all of my injuries, but I think it hit me the hardest my freshman year was being on a new team. You want to show what you can do, and being out the first 2 to 3 months of college was really difficult. And so I was really isolated from the team, because you're doing rehab, you can't participate in on-field activities, and so you're really isolated. But I think another thing that was really difficult was the rest side of it. I wasn't allowed to do certain things because I needed to let my body heal. And for the way I viewed things, it was like, no, I need to come in and work and show myself and prove myself that I have the work ethic and the ability to be here. And so allowing myself to rest and get the recovery that I needed was really difficult for me.
No, that's always tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. And sometimes I just feel like, just as athletes or just as people in general, like we see somebody else do something and we're like, okay, if that person could do it, maybe I could too. So like, was there anybody that you witnessed, kind of overcome an injury, whether it was similar or just an injury in general, that kind of motivated you to say, you know what, like I could fight through this as well?
Yeah, I didn't, at least my freshman year, I didn't really have anybody that I was like looking towards, I guess. But I had a fifth year senior, Andrew McDonald, who was really, really good to me. He had actually Tommy John surgery, kind of something what I'm going through right now. But my freshman year, he was really good to me and kind of taught me, okay, here's when to push, here's when to listen to your body, here's how to do rehab the right way, here's how to stay on top of your stuff. So even though I wasn't necessarily watching him go through it, he had been through it, and he was a really good advocate for me and teaching me how to do things the right way.
So do you feel like there's anything that changed about like your view of baseball through this injury?
Yeah, I think so. Throughout the past 3 and 4 years, I've kind of found what my purpose is, and my purpose is so much bigger than what I do and contribute on the field. My purpose is, baseball is a unique opportunity because there's 35 guys that I get to be around, in season, almost 60 hours a week, 7 days a week, 6-7 days a week. And so I think, it changed my view of my purpose is not baseball. My purpose is my team. And so getting to invest in 35 guys for almost 60 hours a week for a whole year is a chance to do something that not really a lot of people get to do.
That leads me to think about, your identity and like, how was that impacted by not playing baseball? How was your injury, impacting your your sense of self, and like, what do you feel like was something you learned about yourself through this injury, that's going to be beneficial to you long term?
Yeah, I think athletes, especially at the level we're at, athletes, it's so easy to wrap our identity up in what we do because it's so much of what we do. And so we believe in ourselves that, okay, I'm a baseball player, I'm a basketball player, I'm this because this is what I do. But one of my really good friends on the team, he's a graduated senior, Graham Sites. He and I would talk about this often. We would just kind of say, let baseball be something that you do, not who you are. And like I said, I think that's a tough balance for a lot of college athletes. But when I first got hurt the first time, it was like kind of this identity of I didn't know where I was to turn because I had made baseball too much of my identity. And when I got hurt the second time, obviously it's disappointing and it's not what I want. And I was, working as hard as I can to get back on the field, but my identity didn't change. And so first and foremost, I'm a Christian. And so, yes, I'm blessed to be able to play this game and I'm blessed to be able to get back to it. But there's no doubt in my mind that first and foremost, I'm a Christian, and it's only by his grace that I get to play baseball. And it's not the other way around.
I want to mention that you're also involved in Hokies Helping Hokies.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, like, how important is it to you to be a mentor to other people, that are probably going through the same things that you went through? And, what kind of motivated you to do that?
When I first heard about it, it was like, well, this is literally what I'm trying to do on my team already. And now, Dr. Nackstad came together and put a name to it. And so I think that's super cool that I get to be a part of that and help people outside of my own team. I think freshman year, I know the struggles that I had, and I struggled in a way that I had never struggled before. And so I was facing all these new challenges and didn't really have anybody to walk through them with. And so the Hokies Helping Hokies Heal is such a cool program because now people have that opportunity in that space to say, yeah, I know I do need help. And so I think it's a really cool program that you get to share a lot of your experience in a really cool format.
And to kind of wrap this up, I want to have a little bit of fun with the last question.
Okay.
And I gave you a little head start on this so that you could kind of come to the interview prepared. But yeah, man, if you had to write a book about your injury process or recovery process, my bad, and just everything you've learned, what would the title be and why?
So I came up with two.
Okay.
A serious one and then kind of a funny one, I guess.
Okay.
I think the serious one would be It's Not About You. That would be the title. Simply because when you realize that it's not about you and you submit yourself to something that's of a greater purpose than just what your personal stats are, the game becomes more fun. You enjoy being at the field. You enjoy, you just enjoy it, I think, so much more that because the pressure's off to perform for you, that the people around you have your back and you can have the backs of your teammates.
I like that.
But I think, kind of a funny book. There's the For Dummies series. So I think my book would be called Staying Healthy for Dummies. I think simply because some of the things that I was doing, especially freshman year, were just idiotic. I was getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep. I'd stay up, till 3 a.m. and finish a lab report and then go lift at 5 a.m. I was doing so many things that like people told me like, man, maybe you shouldn't do that. And I was like, no, like, this is how I'm going to work hard. This is how I'm going to prove myself. And that's all well and good. But if your body's breaking down and you're not giving yourself time to recover, what do you think's going to happen? And so I think the Staying Healthy for Dummies is funny because I had to relearn so many of these lessons over and over. And so hopefully that would provide some lessons that don't do that.
Rest is a skill.
Yeah.
It's underrated skill. But that's all I have for you today, Ryan. I appreciate you, man. You're a stand-up guy. Great to have you on this show. And hopefully we don't have you on this again, when you stay healthy.
Yeah.
I just wish you the best for this season. And yeah, man, go Hokies, man.
Go Hokies. Thanks, John. Thanks for doing this. This is a cool program you started.